From the Post-Millennial, Trump says he'd probably consider RFK Jr. for a spot in his administration if he quits the race and endorses him. This is big because you saw the news yesterday, but RFK Jr.'s running mate says Democrats sabotaged their campaign from inside and out and might quit the race to endorse Trump. It's so weird. It's so weird. But Shanahan said that people were brought into the campaign as spies, basically, to do things creating legal jeopardy for their campaign. Yo, it's absolutely nuts. Let me play this clip for you guys.
This campaign, I did not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $millions to win, to fix this country, to do the right thing. I will say that Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have unfortunately turned us into a spoiler. And we don't want to be a spoiler. We wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot. The DNC made that impossible for us. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl, pledged an allegiance to. And that is not where we are today. And it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And I am so disappointed I ever helped them. I am so disappointed that I helped Chuck Schumer in that Georgia runoff secure a majority. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life.
Wow. Man, bold statements. She goes on to say that their plan is then just try and run in the face of this, or ultimately drop out and endorse Donald Trump. So I will get RFK Jr.'s got a statement on the lawfare from Democrats, but we do have this from Donald Trump.
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mate said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
I got a simple one for you. You see, if it were me running, and I'm not, if someone asked me about RFK Jr. and said this question, have you considered RFK Jr. for a role in your administration? Honestly, no. If he were to drop out and endorse my campaign, 100% this man is in. Tremendous respect. I admire the fight that he put up. He's got policies we agree with. He's got policies we don't agree with. But that means we find the right position in the administration for where his strengths are. And I know that the people who support him will find we are going to get the job done that they want to get done. Now, I think Donald Trump, I wish he was more well-versed in all of this stuff, but it is what it is. And the big challenge, I suppose, is that Trump knows what he knows. Trump is willing to run, and that's the most important thing. The sacrifices made, the threats he faces, the attempt on his life. Very few people are willing to make that. I'm not. Tucker Carlson's not. I think Tucker said something like he was asked, and he said if, the Lord knocked on his door or told him to run, he'd consider something like that, but he's not going to. But I do wish Donald Trump understood RFK Jr. a bit more. And I wish Trump had better control over his Truth Social account. Because I'll say it again. He posted a thing saying Joe Rogan's going to get booed over saying the thing about RFK. Come on. I'm going to say that. I'm going to shout out Alex Brusewitz. He's a good dude, smart dude, one of the best at his job. But RFK Jr. made a post about when he had the brain worms And RFK Jr. said, I'll eat 5 more brainworms and still win the debate. Or he's like, if they agree to debate me, I'll eat 5 more brainworms and still win, or something like that. It's a funny joke. The only real way that he could have actually gone after that story about him having a brainworm that died in his head. And Bruce Woods' response was, you're a nut job or something like this. And I'm like, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. That's just me. Don't take my advice, fine, whatever. But based on what we're seeing now, my response was, when you get someone making a joke, your response should be to belittle, negative hit, diminish. You don't just insult them, because now it seems like you're not getting the joke and you actually feel threatened by it. My response to RFK Jr. saying he'd eat more brainworms is I'd laugh and then be like, that was a good one, man, but kind of scary that he had brainworms. Like, I don't know, it's a funny joke, but dude literally had brainworms. Just don't let him kill the story, reignite it. That being said, if Trump was more well-versed on who RFK Jr. was, with a question like this, he could say the answer that needs to be said. RFK Jr. must be involved in the Trump administration, focusing on chronic illnesses and environmental toxins. The man knows exactly what he's talking about. And if Trump was aware of how many conservatives were screaming seed oils and banging their faces on the table over hydrogenation and other environmental toxins, he would know that is what makes RFK Jr. viable. If I were Donald Trump, or if I were running, I would say RFK Jr.'s got some bad ideas, but he's very smart about environmental toxins, chronic illness. I think that if he were to work in my administration, those would be the only areas he'd focused on. We do have some concerns about statements he's made on gun control and positions on progressive issues, but the man knows what he's talking about. We need better food for the American people. We need clean food. We need clean energy. We need a healthy American population, and RFK Jr. is the best person for that job. No question. It's his strength. It's his passion. And I really do hope to see RFK Jr. in the Trump administration. That would be tremendous. And that's a 5% bump for Donald Trump. 5%. Maybe not. Maybe it's 2-1. Maybe 60%, 70% of RFK supporters say, okay, fine, he endorsed Trump, I'll join Trump. But I tell you this, if Donald Trump comes out and says, Robert, join Team Trump, and this will be where you lead. Chronic illness, environmental toxins. We are going to make America healthy again with your help. RFK Jr. drops out, endorses Donald Trump, and says that he's proud to join the Trump administration focusing on these issues. Please, if you supported me, stand with me and Donald Trump now, because when Trump becomes president, I will get in to the federal government and I will bring down the hammer on these agencies that have failed to do their job and that have allowed toxic chemicals in your neighborhoods, that have allowed chronic illnesses to expand, that have allowed for mandates on medication. This is the guy for the job. And it's a big boost for Trump. I hope, I got my fingers crossed. I really hope to see it. But regardless of any of that, you take a look at Polymarket and the betting odds. I just got to say, the more Democrats talk, the more Harris goes down. And it's funny because they're saying like the honeymoon is over. Stop saying honeymoon. It's so cringe. They keep saying like the left keeps saying joy. The joy and hope of Kamala. And then people on the right are like, look, they keep saying joy. But then on the right, they keep going honeymoon. Honeymoon. I'm like, dude, her polls are going down, not because the honeymoon's over. It's because they finally had to entertain what they're about. And people went, oh, that's not so great. So the longer the DNC goes on, you'd think that would be good for any kind of honeymoon, they'd call it. Democrats are rallying, they're cheering, talking about why Trump is bad. But for some reason, the more they talk, the more she goes down. It's because people were like, oh, those are bad ideas. They're actually representing nothing. And that's it. It's not just Polymarket. In the betting odds, take a look at this. Harris has begun her decline in the betting odds, and now it's neck and neck. Harris is up by 1 point on Trump. Look at this. She enjoyed such a boost. There was a period here where Donald Trump was the huge favorite. Harris took over, and her poll started skyrocketing. She overtook Donald Trump, and it was a near 10-point advantage in the betting markets. And now it's basically even margin of error, 1 point. And it will flip. It likely will flip back to Trump. And it's not about any honeymoon. It's about Kamala has to talk, not just her, but her surrogates do. And when she does, people listen. And when they do, they go, yikes, it's not so good. I got to tell you, the whole strategy of being like, we're going to fix the economy. It's like, you're the vice president right now. You know, I do have this tweet from RFK. He says, my father and my uncle were members of the Democratic Party that was at the forefront of making sure that every American could vote for the candidate they wanted. Today's Democratic Party is doing the opposite. In this video, it's 8 minutes long. I'm not going to play it. RFK Jr. is talking about how he's in Pennsylvania court because Democrats are suing him. It's insane. They're trying to take his name off all these ballots. You know why? Because they know he polls from the left. It's simple. If he polls from the left, an endorsement for Donald Trump is a big boost for Donald Trump. Right now, his aggregate polling, I think, is around 5%. Imagine if all 5% RFK voters voted for Donald Trump. Not for Donald Trump, but for RFK, but in the Trump administration. I wish, man. I said in 2020, Donald Trump should have brought in Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. And a lot of people are like, no, Yang's nuts. He's a far leftist. He wants universal basic income. Don't care. Of course, it's true about all those things he wants. But if Donald Trump were to have brought in two of the Democratic primary contenders and said, I respect your ideas. I disagree with many of them. But I think with your advice, the people who supported you, they're going to support us because they know that your influence is here and that they trust you to do the right thing. If Trump brought in Tulsi Gabbard, and she ended up endorsing Biden, like, Trump should have made that offer. Maybe he did. I don't know, but nothing was reported. He should have went to her and said, National Security Advisor Tulsi Gabbard in the Trump administration second term. What do you say? That would have been massive. I don't see how Trump could have lost if he brought in Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard because they were so popular with this interesting independent sect. Tulsi Gabbard represented disaffected liberals who wanted the Democratic Party to stop being nuts. Trump could have taken that energy. The opportunity still exists. Trump's reportedly met with Tulsi Gabbard to go over debate prep for the debate with Kamala Harris. Fascinating. So now, 4 years later, perhaps he's learned a little bit. Learn more. RFK Jr. is the guy. Bring this guy into your administration. RFK, you got to drop out. You got to endorse Donald Trump. And Trump, you've got to offer him that position in the administration. This guy is the seed oils man, okay? You get all these libertarians and hippy-dippy right-wing anarchist types screaming about seed oils, and they're going to vote for an RFK. Ian Crossland will not commit to voting for Donald Trump, despite everything we say. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't want to alienate. I don't know. I can't do it. I'll vote for RFK Jr., I guess. It's probably why Joe Rogan's saying the same thing. And then when Ian heard that RFK Jr. may drop out and endorse Donald Trump, Ian says, that's the only way I'd probably vote for Trump. That's the path forward, guys. That is a tremendous move. I think we should see it. So right now, in the poly market betting odds, Donald Trump is winning. In predicted, Donald Trump is not winning, which is interesting. You take a look at this, the betting odds over at RCP, this is the average. We can see poly market has Trump currently, the last time they checked, he was up 5 points. It's actually, so yeah, it's still, it's a different, before it was 50 to 45, but now it's 52 to 47. We can see Predictit has Kamala up. BWin has Kamala up. Bovada has a tie. Betfair has Trump winning. And Bet Online has Kamala Harris winning. I'd like to point out one thing, and it is called betting arbitrage. I don't exactly know proper technique, but I was watching this video where a guy said, you can bet on sports and always win. And I recommend you look into it. I'm not recommending you bet. I'm not giving any financial advice or gambling or anything like that. I'm just saying, if you've got one outlet saying a bet on Kamala Harris is 54 cents on the dollar, and then another says a bet on Donald Trump is 48 cents, the general idea is you can bet on both people to win because both have positive payouts. So the way arbitrage betting works is you look for, because every website has different odds. They go to one website and it says, I think the example the guy uses is like rock, paper, or heads versus tails. If you go to one website and it says a bet on heads will win you, $1.50 for every dollar, and a bet on tails would win you, 75 cents or whatever. But then there's another website where it says a bet on tails wins you $1.50. You can make, I forgot exactly. I'm not a math expert on this, but basically you bet on both and then you end up winning a net positive regardless. So you put in $2 into each bet. You lose one, the other one pays you back $1.50 on top of your $2. You're up 50 cents. That's how arbitrage basically works. So I don't know. You guys probably know better than I do. But I'm just saying, with all these different betting markets saying either Kamala wins or either Trump wins, I'm like, isn't there something there? I don't know. Just kind of as an aside. Well, let's get back to politics. Daily Mail says every time Kamala Harris opens her mouth, she sounds like an idiot, spewing meaningless word salads dressed with shameless hypocrisy. No wonder all her good ideas are stolen from Trump. Okay, a little strong. What I wanted to add to this is every time she opens her mouth, she loses. Her polling is dropping. Her betting odds are dropping. And it's not even her talking. Well, actually, she's given some statements and people are like, whoa, this lady's dumb. That's why she's got to run a basement campaign. That's the fascinating thing about this. Joe Biden had to run a basement campaign because he's an old man who's feeble and incompetent. Kamala Harris has to run a basement campaign because she's just dumb. I love it when Trump called her stupid. They're like, that's racist. Shut up. There are smart people and stupid people of all different backgrounds, and Kamala Harris just happens to be one of the dumb ones. Racism. Next thing they'll call it sexism or whatever. Here we are. Let's talk a little bit about the DNC. We'll wrap up the segment talking about the DNC and the absurdity and the insanity, and I'll tell you why their polls are dropping. Benny Johnson has the tweet. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Bernie Sanders for your viewing pleasure.
Because too many of our fellow Americans are struggling every day to just get by, to put food on the table, to pay the rent, and to get the health care they need.
Benny says brutal for Biden and Kamala. Yeah. Bernie Sanders is roasting the current administration. Yes, that's right. I'm not going to blame Donald Trump or Joe Biden for COVID. You can if you'd like. My point is moot. The end of Trump's term, COVID was bad. The economy was bad. The beginning of Biden's term, COVID was bad. The economy was bad. Let's just say moot point. Then we'll look at the first 3 years of Trump and the last 3 years of Joe Biden. In the first 3 years of Trump, we had excellent economic conditions. Interest rates were low. Inflation was low. Wages were up. Jobs were bountiful. And people were making more money than they ever made before. Then COVID hit. It got bad. Joe Biden kicks things off with his first term. It was pretty bad. And they go, look what we inherited with COVID. But then COVID ends. 2 years, really, after the end of the COVID lockdowns. Where are we? Where are the improvements? Trump was able to pull off improvements. In fact, Joe Biden inherited a COVID economy. That means he got a free bump. Look at the 5 million jobs I created. Well, actually, that's a return to the market when COVID lockdowns ended. You got a boost to your numbers, and the economy is still trashed. You have years to fix this, and you did not. And you didn't do it. So Bernie's right. It's brutal. Here we go. I love this one. This is a clip of Michelle Obama. Do something, Trenton. You know, it's funny that the Democrats look exactly like you expect them to look, and it's kind of weird. Like, honestly, it's kind of weird. Isn't it weird? I don't know, man. We got to be living in a simulation. I mean, that's the only way to explain it. Like, all of the people at the Democratic convention are literally just like procedurally generated NPCs with the same look. The glasses, the effeminate men, whatever. But anyway, they're chanting do something to as they nominate a candidate who's been in power for 4 years, says Benny Johnson. Indeed. Do something. Do something. Well, I got good news for you. You vote for her again, she'll likely still not do anything, except maybe more war. But I love this. The current state of American politics is as such. The Democratic National Convention screams and cheers and chants do something, as if Kamala's not the vice president. The remarkable thing about this gaslight campaign they're doing is trying to pretend like they're not the incumbents. It's just absolutely fascinating. And people eat it up. What a world, man. I don't even know. It's the most disheartening thing is that you quite literally have this massive arena of people who are as dumb as a box of rocks. And that's unfair to rocks, I might add. What are they supporting? Honest question. I'd love, what the challenge is for our show? The challenge, there are a lot of podcasts that can easily get leftists. And you see them, and it's because their hosts are not politically savvy. No disrespect, but they'll easily get a leftist because the leftists are not threatened to come on because these people don't really know all that much, right? I'm not talking about pundits or people that I would insult. I'm saying the regular people who do podcasts routinely get liberals who will come on those shows because they know they're not going to get challenged by anyone who knows the answers. So I'd love to get Pete Buttigieg on Timcast IRL or the Culture War podcast, but that's never going to happen. No way that guy comes in here. He will be obliterated because I am not an ardent Trump supporter and a diehard Republican. I don't like the Republican Party. Matt Gaetz shattered the IOU system of the speakership when he targeted Matt Gaetz, when he targeted Kevin McCarthy, when Matt Gaetz targeted McCarthy. And Donald Trump just happens to be the better choice right now. The Democratic Party is insane. I'll give you an example. Pete Buttigieg said over and over again on Fox News, crime went up under Trump, and Fox didn't have a rebuttal. They're like, people are saying it's still bad today, blah, blah. My answer is simple. Don't take offense. This is the problem with tribalism. Someone says, Pete Buttigieg says, he says, your viewers aren't aware that crime actually went up under Donald Trump. And Fox just deflects and you know what? Pete Buttigieg is correct. Thank you, Pete Buttigieg, for saying that. Because a bunch of liberals were saying that crime didn't go up. And they're saying, no, crime's not been skyrocketing. Crime's getting better. But Pete Buttigieg had the balls to come out and say, no, under Donald Trump's presidency, crime went up. And for that, I say, thank you, Pete. Because we talked about it endlessly during the Trump administration. That's right. In New York City, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco, places that were run by Democrats, in Portland and Seattle, in Atlanta, places that were run by Democrats. Crime went up. And Trump was the president. That's true. And so it's about time a Democrat finally acknowledged the things we've been talking about for so long. And so the question then becomes not to deflect and say, oh, yeah, but, what about now? I'd say, good point. What should Donald Trump do at the federal level to deal with local crime issues? Honest question. Similar question for Joe Biden, but, to Pete Buttigieg's point, he says crime went up under Trump. What should Trump have done? Because I'll tell you what I was saying with the Summer of Love riots, Insurrection Act. When law enforcement will not stop crime, the president has the power to call upon the National Guard to enforce the laws. The local jurisdictions will not. Agreed. Democrat-controlled areas let far-left lunatics ransack cities across this country, and Donald Trump stood by. I mean, so did the Democrat mayors and governors. But Donald Trump should have intervened. You're right, Pete Buttigieg. Trump should have invoked the Insurrection Act and crushed the far-left riots. Say it. Instead, Pete Buttigieg would never want to come on a show like this. Because I got to tell you this, if I was at the DNC, if I'm sitting down with someone and they say, under Donald Trump, did you know that the cost of this thing went up and that thing went up? And I'd be like, oh, didn't know that. Your arguments are meaningless to me, okay? I don't care if Trump did one bad thing or one good thing or whatever. You've got the current debate, and this is what the political structure is built around. Liberals will go on shows with conservatives who will pull a Hannity style, no matter what Trump did, he's right. And, don't give me that. Yeah, well, what about this? And what about that? Yeah, I won't do that. You come to me and say, under Donald Trump, the cost of, I don't know, insert medication went up. I'd be like, wow, that's terrible. Yeah, what did Trump do? Like, why did that happen under Trump? Tell me why. And then if you tell me that Donald Trump kicked a kitten, I'd be like, that's terrible. I don't know if I believe that. Do you have any evidence that Trump kicked a kitten? And if they showed me a video of the man kicking a kitten, punting him right off a bridge, I'd be like, damn, that's brutal. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, Joe Biden and his Ashley. I'd be like, tell me it's something bad and I'll say fine. Now, Trump literally did not kick a kitten and he wouldn't. He's more likely to save a kitten, but that's not the point. My point is simple. When I went on, and this a good example is the Jack Dorsey Vijaya got a Joe Rogan episode. These people thought they were going to sit down with a right-wing tribalist who was going to say, well, you shouldn't have banned. They thought my whole thing was going to be, why did you ban Alex Jones? And then they were going to be like, here's how he broke the rules. They didn't expect a philosophical argument of, sure, but who made you the arbiter of the rules? And why do your rules originate from a leftist worldview and then punish the right for their worldview? And they were like, I don't know. I loved it in that interview debate when I said, your rules are biased. I said, no, they're not. And I said, yes, they are. You have a misgendering policy. Misgendering to the right is when you call someone who's a man a woman. Misgendering to the left is when you call someone who wants to be a woman a man. These are two distinct and opposite worldviews, and you've chosen one of them as the correct approach. Meaning, when the right complains of misgendering, you ban them for it. That is a leftist rule. And they were like, they didn't expect that. But now they do. Now they do. So when we reach out to these prominent liberals and personalities, oh boy, do they refuse to come on. I'll give a shout out to Marianne Williamson, because we had been inviting her on over and over again. And they kept saying, sure, we'll come on. And I like her. She's a nice lady. And then they just wouldn't do it. And so then finally on one episode, I was just like, she won't do it. These Democrats, they're scared. They know what happens. And then in response to, I think it was a tweet I put out saying like, look, we invite Democrats and liberals all the time. They won't come on. Marianne Williamson's been invited several times. They keep saying yes, but they won't show up. And then as soon as I did, they were like, she's like, I'm coming on the show. I respect that 100%, because she was like, I will not duck this. I can answer these questions. And she couldn't. With all due respect to Marianne Williamson, again, I like her. When we showed her that book called Not My Idea, which shows the whiteness contract, where a white man's hand is reaching out in a devil tail with hoofed feet, she cried. She was almost in tears. She's welling up, seeing this thing. And I'm like, these are the books we don't want in schools. It's insane that Democrats go around saying Republicans are banning books. No, we're saying things aren't appropriate for children. These weird sex books. And then, of course, when it came to issues of morality, they can't hang, yo. They can't. Conservatives can. People like Jordan Peterson, that dude's a smart guy. He knows how to hang. Because when he gets asked a question and he thinks he's wrong, he goes, oh, maybe I was wrong. It's that simple. Ego does not blind him. He's not beholden to any tribe. He just says, oh, yeah, good point. Maybe I was wrong about that. I respect that. Marianne Williamson was asked about the right to a fair trial, and it was, I think, obvious to a lot of people exactly where I was going. They knew where I was going. It became a meme. When I said, what if someone can't get a fair trial? What if the judge even says there is no jurisdiction where you can get a fair trial? Should we then say this person is free to go and we won't put them in prison? And I'm paraphrasing, but she was just like, right. And then I said, like Derek Chauvin. And she just went, oh. She's like, no. Right. Your tribalism is showing. I don't care about George Floyd. I don't care about Derek Chauvin. I don't care about the Covington kids. I don't care about Nathan Phillips. What is true and what is justice? Derek Chauvin was stabbed in prison. He's transferred to other prisons. This man should not be in prison. The McMichaels, I forgot the man who filmed the McMichaels in the Ahmaud Arbery case, should not be in prison either. I don't care what the emotional response is. I don't care how many people show up with pitchforks, torches, and bricks. I will not condemn a man to death because whack job lunatics are throwing bricks at me. It'll never happen. But these scumbags in politics will. Derek Chauvin condemned effectively to death, a life sentence, and he didn't do anything wrong. And I'm going to stress that, and I'll say it again, because I don't care if you don't like me, and I don't care if you live in crackpot Wally world where you think fake things. What happened to George Floyd was a tragedy. But Derek Chauvin showed up after he had already been removed from the vehicle and put on the ground. We've seen all the evidence. The defense and the prosecution agreed on the continuum of the use of force. Derek Chauvin opted for a lesser degree of force. He was allowed, according to even the defense, to use a taser on George Floyd and opted for a lighter degree of force, which is holding him on the ground, for which George Floyd said, "Put me on the ground," over and over again. But there are conservatives who are unwilling to say it. The McMichaels was the worst. Ahmaud Arbery was a felony burglary suspect. The prosecution agreed. The question was not whether or not Ahmaud Arbery was committing burglary, because they already believed it wasn't adjudicated in court, but he's on camera burglarizing a home. Fact. And so when the McMichaels pursued him, and they were told not to do it, the question was, did they have a right under the law to engage in a citizen's arrest? The question being, burglary is a felony. So they did not need to witness the crime in order to engage in a citizen's arrest. But the law was worded strangely, and the judge did not give clear instructions to the jury. So the jury said, lock them up. Those men should not be in prison. And when that happened, conservatives were tweeting up a storm saying, see, this proves we are not racist. We got those evil racists. So I can't stand a lot of these conservative types. They will try and they beg liberals. They beg liberals they say to these liberals, please accept me. I'm cool just like you. They care more about the opinions of the New York Times than about what is true and correct. Anyway, I digress. I went long on this one. We'll wrap it up there. Next segment will be coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. For those that are watching live, we will grab your super chats now. The next segment at 4 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, the unrealized gains tax. This will be a fun one. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com, and we'll see you all in the next segment.